Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Birkinshaw. Welcome again to another installment of our Ask the Expert series. Today we're going to be speaking with Paul Clark, an architect here in Lake Norman, North Carolina. Paul, welcome.
Thanks, Matt. I'm glad to be here.
Thanks for coming here. Today we're going to talk with Paul about factors looking for a great home architect. So, Paul, if someone is looking to build a house and they want to engage an architect to help them build that home, what factors should they look at when researching a new architect?
Well, that's a great question, and it's good because you really singled out the sort of a house architect, because there are all kinds of architects, and it's easy to find an architect through a Google search because they're all sort of readily coming up. However, they're all bunched together, and you need to sort of find an architect that really is sort of specializes in doing houses. So Google search can help in some ways do that, because there are some reviews that show up. Usually the reviews are only for architects that do residential work. Other sort of industry specific websites like House, spelled H-O-O-Z-Z, or sort of more general websites such as Angie's List help you find local architects, and they all have reviews for those architects. And those reviews are great because they kind of give you a sense of well, first of all, whether or not those firms are residential firms or not. And secondly, they're wonderful to they're great gauges for the enthusiasm that the homeowner has for the architect. And in particular, they're useful to kind of get a sense of whether or not the sense that the homeowner has about how that architect sort of guided them through the process, how they worked with them. On one hand, the architect really needed to sort of listen quite well to the client in order to capture their aspirations. On the other hand, you should get a sense that the client was sort of guided by the architect. The architect used his or her expertise to really enhance the project, to make the project more than even the client thought it could be. And that's a kind of a condition of their expertise. So once you sort of read some reviews and get some architect sites that you want to look at to their websites, open up the websites and look in there and look at the portfolio. The portfolio is useful in a couple of regards. First of all, it'll give you a sense of how much sort of energy that firm devotes towards residential work versus commercial work, and you really want someone that sort of focuses on residential work. Also, the portfolio gives you a sense of the sort of stylistic approach to design. Some architects are really quite narrow in their approach. They like design a certain sort of stylistically a certain way, and if you like that, that's great. If you don't see something you like, or you're going to get a sense that the architect has a sort of a limited palette, you might want to go to an architect that has a wider palette, just to better accommodate your stylistic interests. You can ask the architect for references from clients that you can talk to directly to find out really from a direct live person whether how that working with that architect it is. You can ask the architect for their sort of professional affiliations, whether they're a member of the AIA, which sort of has a higher standard than just a simple registered architect. But being a registered architect is critical also, because their license actually help get a building permit easier, especially on larger projects, more complicated projects, or ones that require sort of structural design. And also especially critical these days with our environmental concerns is whether or not the architect has some expertise in the area of green design or not. Another sort of more subtle condition is really about the size of the firm. A large firm usually means that there's sort of some principal designers or architects, and you might meet them initially, but because they're so busy with doing different kinds of projects, that your project might actually get designed by an assistant. Small firms tend to focus more sort of intimately and exclusively on just residential work, and sort of see the design through by the individual architect.
great advice, Paul. So what I'm hearing is you want to take a look at, an architect's reputation, both on general sites like Google and such, and also look at some industry-specific sites like Angie's List and Houzz. And the other thing you mentioned, which was great, is look at the size of the firm to see how they interact with their clients, and take a look at their portfolio and see if their sensibilities match yours, and see how flexible they are. That's some great advice. So if someone were to hire your firm to work with them in building a house, tell me about the experience that they might expect.
Well, first of all, when I just get an initial call from a client, they're just sort of testing the water to see whether or not there's a good fit between my approach and their needs. And that's that fit issue is really critical, because again, a house is such an intimate part of one's life, and so you know, sort of the careful interviewing of an architect is good to get that sense of the architect's approach. The initial conversation typically begins with just the kind of a general description of a house, a conversation about the house, whether it's a sort of a new house or a work on an existing house, a renovation or addition. And that's followed up with a face-to-face meeting, which allows the clients to get a better opportunity to evaluate my approach to design. I often prefer meeting at the site itself, because there a lot of concrete information becomes available, and to get a sense of the site, how the house would work on the site, the possibilities of the site, whether it's again there's an existing house there or not, and so that's after that sort of face-to-face encounter, it's possible for me to draft up a proposal for a client, which kind of clarifies the scope of the work, the construction budget, the architectural fees. And if the project moves forward, the design evolves sort of one step at a time. I'm really careful to present early design sketches to the client to kind of to make sure that the project grows, develops, evolves in a way that's compatible with all of their needs, all their interests, and so they sense the fluidity of that design, and that it really can kind of be tailored to their needs and tastes. Unlike many firms, I'm personally involved with every step of the design process. And I don't sort of pass it off to an assistant who maybe was probably was not part of any early conversations in which very sort of subtle desires and aspirations were expressed, which sometimes kind of get sort of lost when the sort of certain details emerge, but they're still important, they're still critical, and so you want the design to be handled by sort of through the same sort of designer throughout. And in addition to the design process, once that kind of works its way out, I help the homeowner sort of find a general contractor or select a general contractor, help them sort of go through that phase, and then during the construction process, I'm there to assist the homeowner to make sure that the house is being built according to the plans and specifications. Finally, I believe it's my sincere concern for my clients and my attention to architectural detail that has resulted in so much of my business coming from referrals.
That's great stuff, Paul. It sounds like you take really great care of your clients, and you're really intimately involved in these projects. And along those lines, you mentioned your initial meeting with your clients, and I know you do something special to help out and work with new clients. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I unlike other firms who really sort of request a retainer in order to have that sort of first consultation before they actually begin offering advice and recommendations, I offer a free on-site personal site assessment, and that assessment is really quite valuable because they're getting sort of an expert view of the possibilities of that site. And again, it's a new site for a house, or for possibilities for an existing renovations to an existing house, and there during that opportunity, they're hearing things that they would not normally think about because they really don't have the expertise. They don't understand construction. They don't understand the various different approaches that are possible. And so whether they go with me or not for the rest of their design services, they walk away with some excellent recommendations, some creative suggestions for how to consider their house, their home.
That's great, Paul, and I like that so much. I put that up on our screen here. I put your phone number up here. Is that the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Sure, that's great. They're welcome to give me a call. I appreciate a call. I'm glad to talk to anybody about any sort of questions they have about houses, the building, the design, or anything. They're welcome to write me by email and get sort of questions answered that way as well.
Great, and I will put your email in the description of this video. I thank you again, Paul, for being here. I thank everyone for watching today, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.